Welcome back, everyone, to the Energy for Sales podcast. Tim Hooper and David Oliphant, your hosts, where we believe if we're not having fun in sales, we must be doing something wrong. David, good to be back.
Yes, absolutely. And we are doing something wrong. So, Tim, interesting topic we talked about yesterday, and we knew we were going to do this podcast. And it's one that everyone throws around, but I don't think anyone really validates it. Value proposition, value prop. What's your value prop? And I think we get lost. I think it becomes a prop and we don't really assess the value. And is the value something we believe is valuable, or the person, the prospect, future client, the person we're delivering it, is it perceived as value? And we had interesting conversations yesterday. So where'd your mind go after we started on the topic and kind of threw it around a bit?
Well, it kind of went back to our podcast we did probably about a year ago, talking about the cockroach versus the dinosaur. And I believe that sometimes in sales, we hang our hat on something that worked for us. And rightfully so. I mean, it worked for us. It worked for us for a long time. And we that's kind of our go-to. We haven't reevaluated. So for instance, somebody who values, the whining and dining. I told you on our call the other morning over coffee. Right now, in a market that we're in, we have to reassess what we're doing, all of our touches, and ask, is this really valuable? And not just so much how I touch a customer with value, but also, have I redefined in different ways? Have I made proposals to them redefining our value proposition? And it was interesting how you flipped it and said, value props oftentimes become a prop and lack the value. I thought that was a fantastic play on words, but I also thought it can help anybody who's listening pause and just say, let me sit down and really evaluate, what do I bring? And what value does the customer get from me, from my company? And I think there's some prongs here, because I think value props are, David, personal, company-wide. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, I think that, if you break it down, why does somebody buy something from someone? There are a lot of books out there, all types of books on how to sell, how to get engaged with your buyer. Really understanding what's important to them. But they buy us first. I think they buy Tim first. They buy the organization second. What does the organization stand for? And then they buy the solutions and services of that organization. So when you break it down, you really have to look at what's valuable. Let's get out of value proposition, value prop. What is valuable to the market, to your audience? And I don't know if you need to have, you really have to have three of those three things. I don't know, unless you're a monopoly, you're not going to buy something from someone that you just despise because it's the only thing. It's not a fun buying process.
Right.
So you really need to look at the value that you bring. The pandemic, we're 3 years, 3 years plus by that. Buyers assess what was important to them.
Yep.
You couldn't go to an office. Now it went to, I don't need you at the office. I'm seeing 7-figure opportunities and sales close that you've never met them face to face. It was a time when field salespeople, I believe, got lost because their value was flying around the country, buying bagels, buying expensive wine, taking them out. And you have to assess that value. And I think it's been, now 3 years in, over 1,100 days since that. If you haven't understood how to sell differently and why, well, how can you help the buyer journey when it's changed?
Yeah.
Because it's not, I don't think and it might not have ever been. We might have said, we used to do that and it would bring in the big business and I'd take them out to dinner and I'd fly all over the country and waste a bunch of money. I don't think there was anyone really validating the value of that at that time.
Right.
So, I don't know, that's where my mind has gone. I have, you know, uh, been leading teams on inside sales, remote sales. The whole world came to us. We didn't fly around. We didn't buy bagels. I think there are places for that. I don't want to just beat up people that are out in the field. But you have to understand if it is a value. What wasn't a value is bringing COVID into somebody's organization and coming to see them face to face, and then they realize, well, I don't really even need to have all my people go somewhere to do something, or have a bunch of your people come to us for us to learn the solution. So just a bunch of different places my mind went. But I think if we really need to assess the value word and what are our value propositions.
I like how one coach put it. If you were to sit down at a table with all of your competition, the choices that your customer has, right? You're one of those choices. If you were to sit around a table with those competitors of yours and you all wrote down on a piece of paper what your value prop is, more than likely, it would have a lot to do with your company. Most sales, I mean, listen, we learn our solutions, we learn our product, our services, what we're bringing to the market. We would list those things most likely. He said very rarely do people actually get to true differentiators. A lot of what would be on those papers, if it was this assignment you turned in, would match. He said the real job of a salesperson is to really think deeply into those solutions, those services, those products, really think about the how, how those are delivered, how they help the customer's life become easier by using. But then also on top of that, he said, then that's the differentiators. He said, very, very rarely do people really get down to the nuts and bolts of, well, this is the way that I approach a customer. This is why they do business with me. I respect their time. I'm an efficient salesperson. When you start calling on an organization as a salesperson, and I see this happen all the time, you have to realize you are engaging with a customer who already has a very limited amount of time in what they're doing. They're trying to engage their customer. If you're B2B, or if this is the end customer, they have a life, they have kids. So if it's B2C, you're engaging, you're calling into some company that's busy. They don't have time. So the first value prop for me personally, Tim Hooper, is my personal value statement is I will not waste your people's time. And so that's rare. So you start with the company, the products, the services, the solutions, and this is who we are as a company. Most people are pretty good there. The differentiators, a little harder to grab. And then moving really into this rare space is the I will value prop. I will not waste your people's time. When I engage with your team, and some of these aren't spoken per se, some of these are what they feel and what they experience when you engage with them. And so, David, we've done a lot of trainings around brief visits, brief phone call. Hey, David, this is Tim. I'll be brief. It's always an attitude of respecting their time. I will respect your time. I will be grateful for the opportunity. I will reassess the opportunity when I'm sitting with you to make sure this time still works. Like everything spells and speaks respect. The other piece on it is I will challenge you. I will not let you fail. I had a business owner and call me the other day. I'm going to toss this to you, David, because I'm going to sneeze. What do you think about those three categories: services, solutions, products, and then the differentiators, and then the I will, the personal statements?
Again, people, as mentioned earlier, people buy from you first as a salesperson, your integrity, your way of doing business, your way of supporting. So the I will is a great pledge. I will promise I will not waste your time or your people's time. Now, saying that, understanding what the value you can bring and what you bring to others in the market, you need to clearly communicate that on the front end. This is how I do it. You Tim, bring, and your team brings tremendous value. You help their sales teams thrive. We talked about a scenario whereby one of your top folks met and taught an entire group of how to do video marketing, how to connect on video. They were very uncomfortable. They did it. They believed in you. They believed in it being valuable. To me, that's a stronger value proposition than, hey, can I bring them lunch? Great, they can eat for a day. It's kind of like, give a man a fish, he eats for a day. Teach a man how to fish, he eats for a lifetime. Or female. Let's not be sexist there. I'm just going to old adage, but it's about connecting, it's about understanding what's important. Now, if what you bring and the way you do it isn't important to someone, that's probably not going to be a good fit.
Yeah.
You're going to force, we've talked before, you can't force a fit. Yeah. You've got people that you bring in as clients and really never enact the business that you would like enacted with you, and never have time to get set up. We talked through that a little bit yesterday, but that's kind of where my mind went. It's a pledge. And it does start with that with that initial phone call. I promise I'll be brief. The reason for my call is X.
Yeah. And you're from initial engagement. Listen, we talk about connection that counts, right? Connection that counts leads to connection that converts. And so I think from initial engagement with somebody, you can start leading with your personal value prop, right? Yes, I'm calling on behalf of my company. Yes, we have great products and services and solutions. Yes, this is how we're different. But if you just lead with that, you blend right in. You sound just like another salesperson. If you come in with your value prop, so my value prop, couple of things that all just right off the bat come out is, I'm going to be I'm asking for a few minutes of your time. I'm asking for a brief. I'm not going to ask for what everyone else is asking for. Hey, can we go to lunch? Or hey, can we do this? Now, I always defer to sometimes in a culture, a certain environment. That's the way business is done. And that's the way an owner or a decision maker expects to go to businesses over lunch. So I always defer to, hey, if an in-person coffee or lunch is better for you, because the history there is everyone has to eat, so might as well make it the two of us. That's fine. But I think the respect of, hey, are you open to a brief virtual coffee? 20 minutes, a couple of questions I want to ask you, and I've got an idea tumbling around in my head I want to run by you. So I'm not leading in with, I want to sell you on a solution. Now, I'm in sales or a management position, and I'm engaging with an owner to have a business discussion. In fact, that level of a conversation has nothing to do really with a sale right off the bat. I want to understand that company. I want to understand, are they a fit? Or I want to understand the customer if I'm B2C. I want to understand if are they going to be good to work with? Is this somebody I want to work with? So leading in with the value of respective time, but then also I have some questions and also an idea. Listen, I'm going to share what we're bringing valuable and different with others, and then see if it even strikes, if it even sparks something. Because if it doesn't, maybe it's not a good fit.
Yeah, and when we're talking about the value continuum, if you think about it, unless they're a pure startup and have never done anything, they're working with your competitor, and there's a reason why they're working with your competitor. And even understanding the value they bring and the impact of the value, or the opportunities where there might be for you, not the incumbent, to come in and provide greater value. Most of us don't start, we're afraid to talk about the existing scenario of, I know you're doing business with ABC company. What value they bring, what value do you hope they would bring? Maybe, you know,
it's interesting you bring that up, because my mind went back to the automotive factories that we would visit and walk. I mean, how long did it take, David, to get a face-to-face visit with one of these engineers? And truly the engineers, the head engineer, the plant manager, they were the decision maker on a lot of levels as far as their local suppliers. And so we would finally get this meeting with them. I mean, you're going through guard checks, you're going through security, you're suiting up, you got to take all the rings and watches off, you got to put all the clothes on and everything. Your belt had to come off. You were going to walk out on a factory assembly line floor, go see this automated line. And at the end of the day, you went through a lot just to get that visit. And man, I'm telling you what, the questions we developed in order to maximize our time and visit, I think was one of the best exercises in sales. But I'll never forget, one of the best ways to find out about what they cared about was, what do you love? We didn't start with, hey, what does the competition do you don't like? What we found was, we asked, what do you love about your current supplier? Like, who are you currently using for, your lines, your tooling and your lines? Because oftentimes it was several suppliers there. And they would share who they're using. And when we say, what do you love about using them? Because what's going to happen is, sometimes, David, we got nothing but disgust. Well, we really need to make a change. We don't really love them at all. We buy it because we have to, kind of like, boom, boom, boom. So, and then we found out budget questions, like who actually makes the decision? Well, headquarters up in Michigan, they decide, and we hate, these guys are always late and we hate it, but we don't have a choice in the matter. Well, that told us a lot of what we needed to know as well. We need to call it to Michigan. So like, we learned a lot just by asking, what do you love? So what do you love about your current solution? What do you love about your current supplier? It'll tell you a lot. And then they automatically would go to, and here's some of the things we don't like. Between you and me, it was that sort of conversation. Between you and me, this, that, and the other. So it's interesting.
Thank you for that trip down memory lane. I forgot about all the different suiting up and having to cover your belt so it wouldn't scratch something on the line.
Yeah.
If you didn't have steel-toed shoes, you had those
You're out
things.
You sat in the lobby, remember?
Well, and that was part of it too. We learned that you have to have that stuff. The more you come in with that stuff, it's like, that industry. I don't need those little stupid boots. I got steel.
Oh, you're right. Because some places have the little clinkers, the little strap-ons. Yeah.
I mean, that was a sign of rookies. Like you knew if you had the opportunity to get to the floor, that you had to be protected. So yeah, that was fun.
Wow. Okay. So time out, man. Here's another value prop. I mean, when we had steel-toed boots on and we had safety glasses, and they're offering safety glasses. Now I'm kind of unpacking this a little bit. We're out of our sports coat pocket pulling safety glasses, and we had our steel-toed boots on already. With our slacks tucked down over top. I mean, I remember this now. It's coming back. Man, they would come out, they would expect you a visitor, they'd be bringing those safety glasses and all the PPE, and then all of a sudden, oh, you're already suited up and ready. We're like, no, we're here. We told you, 30 minutes. Like we're not going to waste any time suiting. Like I remember that. And the respect. Do you remember the one guy who came out after I finally asked for 3 minutes? I said, just meet me in the lobby. If you don't have time, 3 minutes in the lobby. Do you remember us taking like a minute and a half? And we went right for like, what's your challenge? Like, what's your greatest challenge with your automated tooling right now, today? We just went right there. One question, we thought, what was the best question? And he was like, and I think delivery was part of it. And then sometimes like the corrosion or something. He's like, corrosion and delivery or whatever. We're like, okay, well, we're local. We're right here. Boom, boom, boom. And he was just like, and then he reached across and he shook my hand and he's like, thank you for being a man of your word. I was like, because I said, hey, right up here on time.
I think he asked us, like, what's next? It's like, well, we asked for 3 minutes. That was it.
We didn't even, it was like, we were making a bigger point because this guy was a little bit of a prick. We were making a bigger point to be in and out in 3 minutes that we really didn't. He's like, so what's next? We said, we'll be in touch. We'll be in touch in the next couple of weeks. That was a great experience. But here's the thing. It was fun. We had the chutzpah, like Jeffrey Kidmer would say, had the chutzpah, but we walked in. And so here's where I'm going with this. Your PPE, how you show up, how you prepare yourself, that's part of your value prop. When you walk in and you can speak their language, you understand roughly, you might not know their intimate challenges, but as the industry, you understand the challenges, you understand their threats and their opportunities. You also have analyzed online and maybe some of their posture, maybe some of what you've heard on the street, some of their strengths and weaknesses. You kind of have an understanding of where they're at. You can speak to owners and decision makers at a much higher level and really drill in and start on the value prop. I rarely go to differentiator and what we do as a product and service until I've started with all of their issues, service supplier. I get to know them. And then it's a quick, here's what we're doing for others. Most of the time, and here's the thing about modern day, I think if you've been in sales a long time, it's not about whether or not you'll adapt, it's how well you'll do it. You have to, because they're probably already researching you. In fact, some of these new buyers, they're looking you up and seeing if you're legitimate. And if you're not online, you're as a company, but also as your company probably is, but even as yourself, talking about solutions, posting some articles or some comments on things in the industry going on. If you're not there, you may be debilitated. You may be limiting your own personal value prop. You need to be visible that way. That's also a value prop. People live in the social media world. Companies live in the social media world. It's important to show up there. In fact, David, I would argue that you showing up socially and online with engaging with a company you're after or a person of interest you're after, a decision maker, showing up online for them may be as important today as showing up in person.
That's interesting you say that. Yesterday had a meeting with an internal partner, and he started by and I was very humbled by this. He started by saying, I see what you post on LinkedIn and you're so supportive of your people. That tells me that again solidifies what a great leader you are. And I was very humbled by that. And I do those things because it's important to me. Also, I had mentioned in my start, stop, keep, I've always done really well at recognition externally. And I had put on my start, stop, keep for this year to really leverage our internal recognition system to a greater degree, which I did. But it's interesting, if you don't think that people are watching, whether it's internal partner, internal customer, external customer, don't get fooled into thinking that they're not, that every action that you put out there, as far as your personal value proposition, I almost don't like to use the word proposition anymore. To proposition somebody is not normally good, but really assessing the value, and why do you do the things you do, and do you do them consistently? We've talked about consistency. I'm a very big, if you don't stop something, you never have to start it back up.
Yeah.
Today's the last day of our quarter and our fiscal year, and we'll celebrate for a couple minutes and it'll be right back to Monday I'll wait till Monday, but it's like, okay, now we got to start all over. So,
wow. You might change this too. I'm just going to throw a word out there. It's not right or wrong. Value prop. Okay. What does proposition mean? Propose. I'm going to propose something to you, right? You get down on one knee with a company, right? I'm proposing. I want to be in a relationship. I want to be in a marriage with this company. All right. That's fine. Proposal. Okay. You turn in proposals. That's fine. Well, what about a value experience? What about a value experience? When they experience you, when they engage with you and experience you from that very first visit, are you just proposing value like off in the distant future? Or are you going to bring it right there in that first experience? Do they experience value around you from day one? And then do you follow up with value so that it's just a consistent value experience? Maybe that's the term we coin here on this podcast, consistent value experience, CVE, right? Consistent. You're bringing value, and every experience with you. I don't know. I mean, I'm all about a proposal. I know in business we turn in proposals. It's very formal, but at the end of the day, David, you're exactly right. I think the prop piece sometimes props us up in value we think is there. We're still stuck on, like you said, the bagels and the wine. Listen, there's a time and a place for celebration. I believe personally, this is just Tim philosophy. It doesn't have to be yours. But I don't do a lot of the swag, the whining, the dining until we're in a good business relationship. I use those sales weapons, if you want to call them weapons. I use those more as a gratitude for a team. Maybe if there's an onboarding with a certain branch, once the decision maker has said yes, then I'll say, hey, why don't we get your team around a lunch where I can get up while they're eating and kind of spell through the process and spell out the buying journey. I can eat later anytime. So to make their time more efficient, bring a team together, that would be more of a time and a place in my mind. That lunch or whining and dining would be valuable, right?
Yeah, it's interesting.
That's how I look at it. I've never Yeah,
I'm going
I've never
back to
looked
those
at
days,
food as a
and
value prop.
I remember there were a couple clients, manufacturing plants that, and I don't think it was you as much, it was more of your peers who always felt the need to bring the donuts. Now we're in some very interesting towns that had incredible places like for donuts and stuff. I can remember that some of your peers, maybe not as successful as you, had to bring the donuts for the plant, for the people, for the engineers, for the group. You and I don't remember having to do much of that.
Well, okay,
We're more
so
the thank you notes and
I have defaulted, or I shouldn't say defaulted. I have resorted. That's a better word. I've resorted to a really hole in the wall sort of a, pastry shop or donut shop or whatever, when I just cannot penetrate what I call when I cannot penetrate a plant. I would resort to something, because then you basically had to get the guard at the guard shack to call up to the engineering office and say, hey, somebody left something here for you. And I would, on the donut box, write a note with blue Sharpie marker. So there were times where, as a last resort, I would do that in order just to get some attention or get in front of somebody on a visual. Because sometimes that too, I would test whether they were willing to jot me an email to say, hey, thanks for what you dropped off. So again, that was more of a last resort, I would say. Here's what I want to challenge as we wrap this up. Look at yourself in the mirror. I think sometimes we hide behind the donuts. I think sometimes we feel, and this is that it's psychological, it's deep within, but I think sometimes we feel like if we don't have something in hand, then we're not bringing value to them, or we're wasting their time. Back up a little bit. You don't have to have something in hand. Now, we all like to eat. I said earlier, I didn't ever see food as a value prop. I think food is very valuable. And just in business, I've not seen it as a value proposition. It could be something that kind of is a garnish to the value I'm bringing, but it's not a value prop. So don't feel like you have to have those bags in your hand or the Starbucks in your hand or whatever. Now, I'm not saying I'm against it. I'm just saying, look at yourself in the mirror and realize, or if you can't realize it, if you don't see yourself as like bringing value, then start making a list, brainstorm. What are some things? So what are some areas what are some things I'm good at that I could maybe teach or train or help an organization in? All of us have skills, and you were hired by your company for a reason. Maybe the company you're calling on could utilize some of those skills for which you were hired, and you could train and teach on those. Think about what you bring or what you could bring and start developing. It's not about being this all-encompassing valuable salesperson today. You might not know what that is. You could start it today.
Well, my mind was going a couple of places. No, we want to wrap this up, but first off, we talked at the very beginning about connecting and understanding. The world has taught us recently that you're not going to just give a child a piece of candy. You're going to ask the parent, is it okay if they have a piece of candy? They walk in your retail establishment or you're having some sort of interaction with it. By the same token, when you're beginning to work with an owner, a decision maker, asking, instead of them walking in one day and seeing you bringing breakfast and wasting in their mind all the time of their people, like, what is he here for? Why are they all just like not working? To ask for permission. Would it be a value? Would you allow that, as opposed to just doing it? I mean, can you imagine you have people working for you, and or take your role when we worked together, your first role when you were purchasing agent. If the owner saw you going out to lunch every day with a vendor, I mean, they're gonna start thinking like, okay, well, he kind of makes a decision on who we buy from. Is he making the right decisions? So you have to be very careful with gifts. I mean, in a lot of industries, like we can't accept anything. I didn't even know if I could accept a lunch from someone. I probably ended up that I could, but it was someone that was wanting to gain more of our business, and I felt it. I bought my own lunch. I mean, they were in Nashville. I met him for lunch. I just wanted to be fair and equitable to my company. Another thing, you need to understand the rules of what people can accept. So I think it goes back to where we started, connecting, having that conversation, seeing if it's a value, and asking really kind of for permission for some of this stuff. So just coming in and bringing a bunch of stuff.
David, what's one of the best questions a sales professional or line of questions or a thought that they could develop some questions? What was one of the best questions a sales professional, as we wrap up, could ask right off the bat to take a conversation, to make a connection really count, take a conversation to the next level?
Yeah, I'd love to share our value proposition or our value experiences with you. I don't know if they would be of value when you become a client. There might be other things I don't, I would ask for permission. What is acceptable? Again, I'm not wanting to waste your time. I don't want to waste your people's time. Now, again, that's been your personal value proposition, and it really is protecting our time as well. We don't need to spend time. We want to invest time in the right places and not just spend time. So I think you connect and you ask. Again, we talked earlier. I think that understanding the value and the appreciation of the value that their current relationship, hopefully it's a partnership. It was just a vendor relationship. You got to be careful of that anyway, because you're just going to be a vendor. But even, asking that, do you view them as a vendor or partner? And, where might be some areas of value that you could experience through us that you're not experiencing today? I don't know. I don't know if that answered your question or if I just really wanted to
I
talk
really
about
like
that.
Well, I really like the fact that, you led in with, hey, I would like to share, what we bring to our partners. That's very valuable. It's really taking their business to the next level right now. I just wonder to see if any of those things speak to you, if those things would be valuable to you. I think that's good. You're getting their permission off the bat. I think that the whole premise here is, guys, as we end, guys and gals, let's ask more questions. Let's ask more questions. Let's identify, because your value prop, one of the greatest value props would be to ask a question that they hadn't even thought to ask themselves. When you can get there, and when you're not afraid to go there. I read a book recently called Start With No. And if you're not afraid of the no, the places you can go. So you are valuable. Look at yourself in the mirror. Be confident.
That was even funny to me. I could see that you're setting up your first question to get a no and tell them, great, that was my goal. I wanted to get a no so we can get all those no's out of the way. Now let's have a conversation.
You can have so much fun with this. You absolutely can. Sit down, listen. We all know our company and solutions. If you're brand new, dig in, learn your company, learn the solutions, services, products. You learn that. You need to ask, how are we different than others out there in the marketplace? You need to know your differentiators. And a lot of that is about how you approach, how you do it, how your solution, how you solve for X, like a lot of the how, that's your differentiator. But then you need to zoom in, look in the mirror and think, I will. What are the statements? What are the feelings? What is the experience when people engage with you? That's your personal proposition. People buy people. They don't buy companies. They buy people first. They buy your company a solution after you, like David said. Unless you're Apple or Netflix or somebody who's dumping billions into your brand, and you have that built, and you've built this family, or this, not family, what do you call it, David? This massive brand, this like they call Apple like a cult. So it's like people line up around the building for the new release. Like, unless you're that, listen, you're probably in a service organization listening in today, and you're trying to stand head and shoulders above the competition. Here's how you do it. Figure out your personal value statements. Figure out what you're going to bring and deliver on that every single time consistently. So,
and a challenge. I challenged Tim yesterday, and challenge yourselves, whether you're a sales professional or a sales leader. If you're a sales leader, have your team, each of them individually, write down the value experiences, the value propositions that each of your sales professionals feel they bring, and really have them assess that. And then maybe even do a litmus test. Go to your top clients. Hey, these are things that I feel add value in our experience. Are they really valuable? I mean, ask them for help. Ask them for understanding what is valuable to them. Because if they're your best clients, then all you have to do then is find people that the same things are valuable for them in that experience, and should be a pretty much slam dunk. So
I know we've been wrapping up for like 10 minutes. This is starting to sound like a sermon. Or
on the Mount,
or what is it called in your, what is a
homily?
Homily. It's still homily. It's starting to sound like a homily. But truly in the nature of wrapping up, what David
wrap it up.
What David just said, really lean into taking some time as leaders, as sales leaders. Listen, this is a podcast. Hopefully you listen to, hopefully you'll forward to your team, forward out to some of your business partners, but maybe carve out some time in your next sales roundtable, your next sales meeting, to take a little bit less time of you talking through an entire agenda for an hour of all the things you want to accomplish for the week, and your salespeople are going to sleep. Maybe stop and just start asking some questions and get some dialogue going around the table, because some of your well-seasoned professionals can share some I will statements, some personal value experiences that they're consistently bringing, that others who are newer to the team might pick up on and think, wow. And David, you said it, when you find out with a good, solid partner, somebody you enjoy doing business with, and what, because they'll tell you, like they'll share back, our team is saying this about you, our team loves this. When you figure that out, I always think about it like this. When I was a kid, if I could ever get my queen back onto that back row and take out the rook, and then I could take out the knight, and then I could take out the bishop, sometimes the knight would jump and then the bishop was still there. They couldn't move because the pawns were still there. If I could get back behind the lines, usually I could take out some really big pieces. And so think about yourself that way. Get deep with somebody, figure this out, figure the value prop, why they value, and listen to what they say they value about you, because they may tell you something you didn't even know. And then you start looking at that same buyer profile, other companies, and you'll be selling like a pro.
Do the same exercise with your personal relationships. A lot of times we do things we think they're valuable. Well, I do this and I do that. Well, I don't care. I'd rather you do this.
Okay. Wow. So there will be a sequel coming out, folks. David, this is
great.
Good. Don't use what you think is valuable to prop yourself up. Really dig in and bring a consistent value experience. David, cheers, man. Have a great day, everybody. Boom.
Be humble and kind.
Humble, kind, lead with value. See you guys next time.